Hi, everybody, and welcome to the Science of Spirit. Today, I have basically got a channeling session for you. This is a group of channelings that I have done at various times, fairly recently, though. This has all been within the last 2 or 3 weeks, and it's on a variety of things. I thought I would just go ahead and kind of lump it all together. I couldn't really put them all in the description box, so this first one is on something called Skinny Bob. I will put a link below so you can go check this video out. This is a video that is on YouTube, and it depicts aliens. And it looks like it was filmed sometime maybe in the 40s or the 50s. So I thought, why don't I go ahead and channel this and see what's up? And normally I don't pay that much attention to that stuff, and I had actually never seen this video until like maybe 2 weeks ago. Didn't know it existed. Why it's called Skinny Bob, I have no idea. But I went ahead and channeled that, so that's interesting. We've also got stuff about the election. I know, I don't usually get political, and I'm just calling it as my higher self is talking about it, which it won't talk about a lot of stuff regarding that, which I find interesting. Also, there's a little bit more about why people's stuff is kind of coming up. I wanted to know what is actually the direct cause of that we're noticing now pretty much all over the planet. And then I also asked about climate change and a little bit about what's going on with that. So, here we go. Okay, this is on the Skinny Bob video. The date, 1956. It was taken from a craft that had difficulty flying out of the atmosphere due to the, I couldn't read this word, but it's parabolic issues at the time. I don't know what that means. The entities were from another dimension and couldn't get back. They were humans from another reality, here, partaking in a challenging time. Left them to figure out a way back home. Not able to do so. Died in captivity, although one continued to live here longer than the other two. So I guess there were 3 entities. They were scouting areas that were emanating radiation, and is partly what caused them to crash. Foreign objects were also aimed at them. Created a rate of decay for interference through other realms. So I'm assuming that had something to do with their ability to be able to figure out vibrationally where they were located and be able to get back. I don't know. Perhaps radiation interferes with that. I'm inclined to think it probably does in some way. So that was really all I got about that, but I was surprised to know that it's actually the real deal. So definitely check out that video. It's pretty interesting. I feel like, wow, that's the first time I've actually seen what entities from another dimension actually look like. So then I did another session to find out more about the radiation and how that affected this vehicle. So what I got was, this type of vehicle was determinate on several factors. The radiation from nuclear energy in certain amounts disrupts the photon atmosphere plane on a different plane. Okay, that makes no sense. This damages the layers around it and sets off a new variable that requires recalculation. But with lost coordinates, the vehicle won't maintain the frequency it needed to vibrate to the proper level, and thus comes to a halt rather abruptly. New coordinates are hard to realign with from a damaged unit. Certain types of radiation affect the space-time continuum. Pulses are affected, creates a distortion. So the next thing I asked was about the election here in the United States. And I got that Trump will win, but it also goes on to say some other things. Okay, I also got hold your ground. willful release of chaos to be deployed. And I asked if Trump and military were going to do anything about it, and I got a cannot confirm at this time. The cronies will be shut down. Not sure what that means. Also, the opposing faction will talk about the polls being altered by them. Their narrative will not work. It will be kept secret until the right time, heavily guarded. So the next thing I asked about was about climate change. I live in the Southern California area, so I was curious to know more about what's going on in that region. So that's mainly what this is aimed at. But there's a little bit of worldwide information on here too. Okay, in USA, the San Diego area will remain mild 10 to 20 years out. Can be considered fair weather. The sea will rise some, but not much in San Diego area. Earthquakes will occur in other areas. California will have a massive quake up further north. Loss of life, but San Diego will feel some shaking but be okay. San Francisco to Humboldt area. Okay, I'm assuming that's for the earthquake. Hurricanes in the northeast, some volcanic activity in the Mexican peninsula. A cooling trend, but gradual. The fires in Australia will be controlled within 2 to 5 years. Man-made, not climate. Different factions causing dryness in Australia. Some man-made, some general area changes. The weather in California will rectify itself. Much chemical spraying was causing changes in the atmosphere. Now it can rebalance itself. So that was really all I got with the climate change. The fires that we're having here in California, that's all being set. I'm not saying that some of them aren't, an accident here and there, but that's all being deliberately set. Okay, the next topic is something that I'm referring to as the split. And any of you that are familiar with Dolores Cannon's work, where she's talking about the new Earth, and I have a podcast up about that as well, it's creating this split. There's this sort of those who are still want to deal with negativity and be all caught up in that, and those who don't, those who have worked on themselves, have fixed things, and have a more positive outlook on life. And you're seeing this big split between the two, where we both kind of, commingled and still are, but now you're really seeing the differences happening. So I've always suspected what causes this, but I thought I'd actually ask my higher self what its take is on this. So this is what I got. And I had asked, what happens to the people who have that negative vibe? And I'm still not sure with this split how far a split can go. I mean, two very different vibrations, existing at the same time. I mean, obviously they can commingle for a while, but I don't know. I think if the vibration gets too separated, too great a difference, that it's really not possible. I don't see how it can be still. So this is causing a lot of turmoil everywhere, and I think we're all noticing it. So this is what my higher self had to say about this. The cause is a vibrational misalignment with the true nature of being. It is not being discussed in the manner it is happening. Low density vibration is more overtly impacted with a higher vibrational change because it is dense already. Mostly those who don't make efforts to fix issues that they have will continue to have misalignment until they fix them. They will continue to exist in a low density field. Now, what I have known about this, and the original instigator of this, is something that may have happened through my teachers and others throughout the world. But I believe it was the early 90s, maybe it was even the late 80s, they had channeled information that God actually had a plan to help us rebalance things on this planet without us basically killing ourselves again, because we have destroyed ourselves many different civilizations. But this time, the plan was to bring in God's light, everyone who can, and the more the better, and focus it at the earth. And so there have been quite a few people doing this for, many years now. And, a lot of us are like, well, it doesn't seem to be getting any better, not seeing any changes. But what we failed to really realize is that when you focus a lot of light, it brings up the dark. Everything in the shadows comes up for you to see and for everybody to start seeing for the most part. And so I think that was a main instigation of getting this whole thing started. And now you're seeing a lot of chaos. And those who are more spiritually aware are noticing these differences that are happening vibrationally. So it is something that's affecting the planet globally and, all of its inhabitants. So it actually forces people to either do something about their stuff, their baggage, or you don't have to. I mean, nobody's forced into doing anything. But if you don't, you're going to end up somewhere else. And I think that's where Dolores Cannon and this whole New Earth situation comes in. If everyone is creating their own reality, at some point, those who together decide that they want a different type of reality aren't going to be denied that, because you get what you intend, you get what you put out there. And then those who are fine with the status quo, like the fighting, the warfare, the everything, they can continue doing that too. They're just going to be in a different area. We're not going to, intermingle at some point. At least that's my point of view. So it's going to be interesting to see what happens. Isn't this an interesting time to be alive? I mean, really, it's tumultuous, but it's also pretty fascinating. So the last thing that I'm going to include with this channeling is a question I'd asked about artifacts or relics, architectural kind of stuff on other planets in our galaxy and other areas that might be kind of interesting. So this is what I got. All right, number 1, Mars has several artifacts built by humans and others in the past. No longer viable for use. Mars once was quite habitable, but the relics are very old and buried. Mostly non-usable, but used to house people and cities. Okay, well, that's kind of all I got about that, but I could continue asking more. 2, the moon is an artifact. It currently houses individuals who are scientists and also adjusting the levels of stability in the whole moon structure. Don't know what to think of that. Okay, moving right along. 3, there is a platform in space that adjusts its orientation as it goes. It is governed by many species of humans and some others. It is a sanctuary platform used for interagency discussions and endeavors, being put forth for the preservation and procurement of cultural integrity of many worlds. But its locale is in your galaxy. Okay. That's interesting. That is the end of what I got. So these were just some things that I had gotten in various channeling sessions that had really brief explanations on a topic. So it wasn't really enough to, do a whole podcast on it. So I just kind of thought I'd put them all together and share them this way. I want to thank you all for listening. And hopefully this information was helpful in some way. Most of it's just sort of a general interest kind of thing. But as far as the climate change goes and political stuff, lately I really haven't gotten anything that's of an alarming nature. I mean, yeah, there was an earthquake thrown into this pile, and I wasn't really given a magnitude for it, but that's just as my higher self sees it at this point. Things can change. It could be a lot worse, it could be a lot better, it might not even happen. But that's just as things are right now. Things can always change and often do. Thank you for listening to The Science of Spirit. If you're listening on YouTube, please subscribe to my channel and hit that bell for notifications of when I upload again. You can also hear these podcasts on Breaker, Google Podcasts, Overcast, Pocket Casts, Radio Public, and Spotify. Thank you for listening.